Hey guys, welcome to the HECHA Make Techno Black Again talk. Today we'll be talking a little bit about reformatting businesses and marketing strategies towards more human connection, collaboration, and community.
Just really quick about our name. Our brand name is HECHA, and it's a word that in Spanish it means made or created. In terms of pronunciation, the H is silent, so it's just HECHA. And we decided to use this name because we wanted to make sure to focus on the sort of physical aspect of making something and the actual labor that goes into production. And the Chinese character is also representative of that same sort of intention and word. And Ting can tell you how to pronounce it.
Yeah, and it's pronounced zuo. Oh, and also I realized I forgot, I'm Ting.
Oh, we didn't even introduce ourselves.
Yeah, we didn't even introduce ourselves. So no, that's fine, I'm Ting. And
my name is Luz.
Yeah, and we make up HECHA. Mm-hmm. And obviously the two languages represent our cultural backgrounds, just to give you guys a bit more context.
Exactly, and like the first languages we spoke as babies.
All right, to start off, I wanted to talk a bit about what is a business, especially under the present system of capitalism. A business is a term that refers to organized efforts, activities of individuals to produce and sell goods and services for profit. I think it's really interesting that individuals and profit appear to be the main driving forces behind what currently constitutes as a business. And, you know, in the business, for anyone who's in the business kind of sphere, you're always told that you're expected to have exponential growth. The growth never stops. It does follow a cycle of a recession, usually with then driven forward with some innovation that's supposed to happen, which then once again helps you peak. But the idea is that you should always be expanding and growing forever. That's obviously and frankly not realistic given the reality of our planet. And so, you know, the reality is, especially given what's happening with COVID, we're starting to see that we need to be slowing down our consumption. We need to be slowing down the amount of motion that we do moving around, and basically caring a bit more about the planet if we want to live and continue to live and survive as a business and brand. And ultimately that leads me to talk about what an empathetic business model is. So for us, we believe that it's any brand that sympathizes with their customers who wants to push for more of an empathetic model where we will focus more on transparency and re-standardization of how things are currently run by focusing on 3 pillars. And those are the environment, which is the planet, the economy, which is the profit and more monetary side of things, as well as society. And, you know, in our case, the people and the communities that we're part of. But ultimately, we want to talk about the importance of just context and care in everything that you do and the importance of those things versus kind of fitting everything into small categorical boxes. We want to always zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Yeah, and with the first pillar being the environmental impact of our brand, I'll let Luz talk a bit more.
Mm-hmm. So the very first thing that we talked about when we started conceptualizing this whole project in the first place was that we wanted to make sure that anything that we produce and put out into the world, we wanted to make sure that it would be as environmentally and ethically sustainable as possible. But the thing about sustainability is that it's a very broad term. There's no real definition or standardized sort of list of rules or qualifications that make something sustainable. So we really had to do a lot of research and talk a lot about what sustainability means to us personally and the ways in which we can incorporate that into the decisions that we make in terms of fabric choices, materials, production, where we produce, who we work with, etc. So basically, ultimately, the goal is to avoid the fast fashion trend of creating something from materials that were, derived and like created in very environmentally dangerous ways and irresponsible ways, and those materials being used to create something that is of poor quality, poor construction, and something that might be cute and like, trend worthy, but that won't last because it either will fall apart or it just gets thrown away and unused because it's not hot anymore. So basically trying to avoid this linear life cycle where it just ends up in a landfill, and it just, contributes to the growing amount of waste all over the planet. So we wanted to focus on more of a circular life cycle that focuses more on, recycling, upcycling, and things like that. So two of the ways in which we try to focus on those intentions in our design process is to design with materials that are environmentally conscious. For example, our hand-painted line is made from a blend of hemp, organic cotton, and recycled polyester. Our activewear line is made from a recycled polyester with spandex, so that's made from, old plastics and plastic bottles and things like that. So both of our fabrics are fabrics that we did a lot of research about to try and find materials that, even from their creation, have less of like a carbon footprint in terms of the manufacturing that goes into creating them. The paint that we use is also this non-toxic screen printing ink, so it's something that can be used safely, and when you use it and if you're like cleaning up, for example, you don't have to dispose of it in any like specific way. It's water soluble because it's water based. It's easy to heat set and everything. And then in terms of the actual design and construction of our pieces, we make sure to in terms of the actual physical look of the garments, because they're hand painted, we decided that they don't need to like be matched in a specific way. So when the whole process of when I'm painting is this giant sort of mural sized piece of fabric that I paint on a large scale on a wall.
I can show right here, top right corner.
Right. So that happens on a wall. So it's like one large piece of fabric. And from that fabric, we heat set it and then we cut it. And
I think we basically try to maximize all the fabric that Luz has painted so that we minimize the amount of waste scraps that come from it, and anything that, the smaller scraps we tend to save and recycle, upcycle, and we have smaller accessories like pouches and things that we can use. So to minimize the waste and our carbon footprint.
Exactly. We teamed up with this guy Max in the garment district, who's our local producer. And in terms of production, we also decided from the beginning not to overproduce and to actually focus on a more made-to-order system in order to avoid unnecessary labor, unnecessary costs and expenses, unnecessary overproduction, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't want to make more than we can sell. But also, Luz works with her mom to start conceptualize the designs into initial samples. So it's a really, from start to finish, we we work on all these pieces. And another kind of important part of being environmentally aware is to make sure that the people who purchase our clothing have a specific mentality and relationship to the clothes. We want to inform them with knowledge and ideas so that they know how to make these informed decisions so that they can buy pieces that will last them a long time and that they can also repair rather than disposing of them, to encourage for a longer product life cycle. I guess, talk a little bit about the lifetime.
Totally. And in order to encourage people to develop longer relationships with their clothing, with our pieces specifically, we wanted to make them as durable as possible. But of course, there are going to be normal wear and tear situations where like a button comes off or a strap gets ripped or something like that. So we offer this warranty where we will repair a piece and make sure that it's something that isn't going to get thrown away, and it's something that can be continuously used, and to make sure that something like a button falling off of a garment isn't going to render it useless, basically. Because sometimes that's what happens. If like the zipper on your jeans breaks or something, then what do? You kind of just throw it away. Like basically trying to encourage people to not throw things away if there's only one little thing wrong with them, and just make sure that you can just fix items like that, repurpose what you already have. And if you're buying something new, make sure it's like a sound and solid investment that you can like keep around for a long time and like, continue to breathe new life into it.
We also came out with an anti-green sheen zine, and we dropped that earlier this year on Earth Day, which basically offers different tips and tricks towards being more sustainable in your consumption. So
Right.
yeah, it's like we have an interactive buying guide that basically takes everyone through the idea, like, do you really need to buy something new, or do you just want to? So it takes you through the steps. You can figure out ways to also dye it or repurpose it. We encourage basically the less consumption when you don't
less
have
consumption
to.
And less waste, less throwing those things away.
Exactly. And another pillar of our business model and towards this more sustainable business model is the economic impact that we have. Something that I always like to stress is that we operate on an abundance mentality with an emphasis on like collaboration and not competition. The idea is that there is enough for everyone to go around. So there is no need for us to be so individualistic about everything, and to work with others, especially if there are other people doing something, another brand, another business, work with them. Don't treat them necessarily as competition, and recognize that everything and everyone has value, which then also, means that everyone who you work with, you should compensate as well, in more than just social clout. That doesn't count. As well as to treat profit not as the main KPI or key performance indicator, as we call it in the business world, to drive our decision making for long-term strategy, because ultimately to go for that short-term cash grabbing solution doesn't really foster for a long-term relationship. But I'll let Luz talk a little bit about the Make Techno Black Again project and its conception.
Right. So a little backstory about how this started is it started as a meme, and it's this like meme that I made in like 2016, I believe, and it was around the time that the Make America Great Again hats were this like very hot topic, and it was also around the time that I was personally learning a lot more about the actual history and origins of techno, and this music form that I had become like so deeply immersed in after like living in Berlin and actually becoming a part of the community here in Brooklyn. So I was having conversations with different friends and people, and realized like it is something that a lot of people might not, think about or even know in the first place. So I made this meme kind of like as I wouldn't call it a joke, I guess, but I just posted it on Instagram, and I got lots of responses from people who are like, that's super lit, like I would wear that or I would buy that, and like that's great. So I started talking to Ting about it and thinking about whether we should actually make these things like a physical reality. So to like turn this concept into a physical form. And we actually decided to do that. But when we decided to create this product, we knew that it shouldn't be something that, directly just like benefits us and, is something that we make profit off of. And we wanted to make sure that it would be a project of reinstatement that would actually be redirecting that sort of profit into Black-centered organizations and community projects. The first place that we were collaborating and like donating to was this program, this after-school program in Detroit called Living Arts. And since then, we've donated to like several different organizations, and more recently had a few different runs of hats that we ended up donating and raising a lot for during the whole George Floyd protests. And I think, Ting, you're going to talk about DeForest.
Yeah.
Or is DeForest going to jump in? Or
cameo time.
Hi. Yeah.
So another aspect of the project is for us bringing on DeForest Brown Jr., or also known as Speaker Music, and also let him speak a little bit about his involvement in the project.
Yeah, come on down.
So hi, I'm DeForest Brown Jr., rhythm analyst, media theorist, and curator. Yeah, I joined on to the Make Techno Black Again project a few years ago and kind of bound up my own research into the origins of techno as it relates to American technocracy, and working alongside HECHA to let the world know where this music came from, why it is the way it is, why repetitive boom booms in a big glowing room actually kind of like evokes like the emotion and community like amongst us. Yeah.
Thank you for that, DeForest. And we also earlier this year up with Dweller Festival to host a discussion as well as a music night. You can see the flyer right here. So that's one aspect. And we also use the Make Techno Black Again project to fund and help us in all the areas of the business, including compensation. I think compensation and credit is really important. That's something that we agreed should be always part of our business model, which is not just offering people social clout as an adequate form of compensation, but rather not only offering compensation, but allowing the collaborators to pick different options. So when we first started, we didn't have that much to give because we were just getting started, but you know, we gave what we could, and we tried to offer our products, which is what we had at the time to offer. But as we, grew a little bit more, we were able to offer more, as well as different combinations, whether for the collaborator to pick the monetary value, or also a product, or a combination of the two. And compensation doesn't also just end in terms of monetary things, but also in the sense of receiving recordings if they performed in one of our events, as well as image assets that they are free to use elsewhere as well. And another aspect of all of our events is that we often have they're always free, and they're always live streamed for transparency and accessibility. But we also accept donations since we are often giving out free drinks during those events as well.
Right, or at their performances and things like that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And as you can see, White Label is actually one of our sponsors who have sponsored us many times in the past. And yeah, even for them, we were able to offer some product shots in return to thank them for their donations. Mm-hmm. We just want to make sure that everybody walks away with something, whether it's the people who attend the events or people who we collaborate with. Mm-hmm.
Right. If you're a brand or an organization and you don't have a lot to give, it's you have to compensate in some form. But like Ting was saying, clout does not equal compensation. It's just, you can't function. You can't
pay your rent with it.
Right, exactly. You can't run a business with like a sound conscience without compensating people.
And then for the last kind of pillar of sustainable business model is the social impact that we have. So the video already started, but basically this is a video of our first event where we basically live streamed the whole thing, and Luce was live painting while I was taking photos of some of the models. As you can see, that's the live stream. And we wanted to show people the whole process of, and how we do, and be as transparent as possible. And later on in the evening, we had Erin, one of the models, actually perform at the event. And we also invited everyone who is perhaps watching the stream earlier in the day to come and join and have a drink on us, and to look at the clothes a little bit. But that's all to basically say we choose to work and build from within our communities rather than treating our customers and consumers as a demographic who we're marketing towards.
Another thing that we talk a lot about, or with every shoot and every event or project that we do, we've always really wanted to make sure that the people that we photograph are presented as actual individuals, with agency over the way they want to be seen and presented. And yes, they're wearing our clothes, but we always ask or want each person who models for us to style themselves the way that they would like to and have free reign over those types of choices, as well as the way what kind of information they want put out about themselves. We always want to include a sort of bio or background information about each model or each collaborator, with really basic information about who they are, what they do, what they want to share about the projects that they're working on, if they have any events coming up, things like that, so that it's a really a more full picture of who someone actually is, instead of basically using a model as a live mannequin. So yeah, so a real focus on people as individuals, rather than just for the sake of nice images.
Exactly. Context.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So here are some photos from one of our pop-up events. I think this was 2 years ago, where we were hosting a 4-day long pop-up event. So turns out 4 days is a long time. We were still experimenting with different formats at the time. We thought, we thought 4 days seemed like a good idea. 2 days, maybe.
2 days max.
Sure. So we obviously learned a lot, but it was a really great chance to explore and experiment with the different formats. We had art gallery in there. We had vendors come in and do some upcycling workshops, as well as one night we dubbed the electronic music night, which is what you see those photos from as well. But basically we wanted to use the space as a blank canvas, much like our fabric paintings, and to be painted and filled with context, and invited our friends and peers to participate.
Right. And I think the point of bringing that up is to encourage, if you're a brand or a business or an organization where you have the means to rent out a space or have some sort of time or even visibility for whatever reason for your own products and for your own benefit, it's so important. And why wouldn't you open that up and share that with others? If you have that space, we rented out the space, why wouldn't we have opened it up to people to also take advantage of? Basically, share the wealth, share resources.
Exactly, abundance. And this is also another event that we did. It was quite last year. We called it The Simulation Sucks. I mean, obviously the simulation has continued to fritz out on us.
It's getting worse.
But yes, hardcore. And we worked with another cooperative at the time called Funneled Smoke, and we were able to shoot the photos at their photo studio. And we involved also friends who both modeled the clothing but also performed for us for our event that evening. And as you can see, so that was kind of the day into night transition as well. Yeah, I mean, all of that in summary is really to say that for a sustainable business, one needs to take multiple things into consideration that is more than just the bottom line.
Right.
Yeah. because we are limited in resources. The earth can only handle so much, and we need to be approaching things with more context, more care, and not necessarily just keep focusing so hard on competition.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially now with how so many things are still in flux and really changing, it's really important for all of us and businesses to really learn to adapt and try and approach things in new, not even necessarily new, but just in different ways and creative ways. And like, yes, we live in a capitalistic society and world, and it's so deeply ingrained in all of our psyches. It's like we swim in capitalism. It's like this ocean that we can't, live outside of. But basically, the hope is to encourage people to try and reconceptualize like what running a business can mean within capitalism, and how to, how to make it work better for everyone and not just like the bottom line that Ting was saying, and that sort of like very selfish, individualistic, capitalist desperation way.
Soft capitalism, I always say.
Sure, yeah.
Softer, kinder capitalism. But yeah. No, thanks for listening to our talk and taking the time.
Thanks for listening, and everyone stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe.
Wear your masks, Yeah.
Bye. Bye.